right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 42nd annual meeting of the Laguna Woods United Laguna Woods Mutual, I'll get it right, California Nonprofit Mutual Benefit Corporation. Today's October 10th, 2017, and we are in the boardroom of the Community Center. I call this meeting to order officially. And we do have a quorum. We're missing only one board member, and that's Maxine McIntosh, who is on vacation, which we allow since she is going off the board. I would like to start with the pledge, and Janie is going to lead us in the pledge, and then if you all would remain standing for a minute afterwards, we'd like to do a minute of silence for some of our, one of our members lost wife and all of the victims of the horrendous fires that are going on right now.
Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A week ago, Joe Rainey, our councilman, who was our VMS director, lost his wife, and so our thoughts and prayers go out to Joe. And also we want to remember all of those that are affected right now, some family members, friends, staff who are having trouble particularly getting into work or saving their homes or whatever. So let's have a moment of silence for all of them. Thank you. All right. Number 3 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Gary?
Second.
Okay, and I saw, because I was looking that way, Cash to second. Are there any discussion on the agenda?
Yes.
All right. Recognizing Pat.
Okay, this agenda is not the normal agenda that we have for the annual meeting. And I think that there's a lot of things on it that should be left to the new directors when they get on it, rather than the old directors going through all these things. So I am opposing the current agenda. Thank you.
All right. Do you make a motion that we do not approve the agenda?
Yes.
All right. Is there a second to her motion? Seeing none. Are you seconding her motion, Andre?
Yeah, seconding
You should. Yes?
Okay, I just want to know the reason.
Director Torn, can you please turn your mic on? Thank you.
The reason I'm seconding it is because I think it's very important to Pat about this move, but I just want to know why. What are the articles that you don't think it's necessary to be included here and should be included in the organization meeting?
Because I believe that the new directors should be giving things like this, not the old directors. And it never has been for, last year was the first year that we had this kind of thing on the agenda, and I didn't think it was inappropriate then. And for the past 40-something years before that, they've never had any kind of agenda like this for the annual meeting.
Gary?
Andre, just out of curiosity, why would you second a motion and then ask a question about what the motion was about that you just seconded?
Because I cannot ask questions until it's seconded, right?
All right. I will speak to the fact that for the second year, we have put on the agenda a state of the mutual. What we've done this last year, what we hope to do, we're there, because I feel it's necessary for our members to know at our annual meeting what we did last year. And that's not something that new members can report on because they haven't been on the board yet. So that's why the state of the mutual is done by the existing board members. And that's the only real change that we have on the agenda. Yes, Jack?
I would just question where this will come up. Would probably be after the new
It's-
directors are.
It's number
succeeded.
11.
Oh, number 11, okay.
Well, that's after the new directors are seated anyway.
It is.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the old directors still can't give a report on what their committees did if they have a report to give. If they don't, then the existing directors who are still on the board as committee chairs are the ones that are going to be giving a report for the state of the mutual. All right, I have a motion and a second not to accept the agenda. All those in favor?
Favor of not to accept it.
2? All right,
I don't have a screen.
Oh, I didn't vote, I'm sorry.
Can we just do a show of hands on this?
yes, I think we can. Let's just do a show of hands on that one.
The screen's up,
It's
sorry,
on there
just
now.
took me a second.
All right. Now, but this is the second motion. The first motion was to deny,
Right, it'll be
The
put,
agenda.
it'll be put on there properly.
and this one that we have, Gary and Cash, is the one to approve the agenda. So I think we only had 2 people on the amendment to the motion.
Oh, I did.
So that does not pass, and we go to the original motion, which is to approve the minutes.
We should vote on Pat's
I
seconded
thought we did,
motion.
and we
No,
did it
we
by
did
raising
not.
hands.
Okay.
We had 2, it was 2-4 and
No,
7,
8.
8 against.
Okay.
All right, now we're voting on the original motion.
Correct.
Which is to approve the agenda. Certainly.
Someone has seconded the motion, can they oppose it in the final vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yes. All right, now use your screens, and we're voting on the approval of the agenda.
I haven't canceled it.
What are you voting on now?
All right, now you're
The
voting
screen is
on the approval of the agenda as printed.
I do not have a screen.
And I still have, Director English, do you have a screen to vote with?
I did vote already. I voted no, and so did Jack, but they're not coming out.
There you go.
There, yeah.
All right, 7-2, the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of our annual meeting last year, October 11th, 2016. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Janie?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Maggie? Okay, any discussion on the minutes from the annual meeting last year? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
I apologize, who moved that?
It was moved by Janie and seconded by Maggie.
I don't know, it's not
1, 2,
recording.
3,
So
4,
Director
5, 6.
Torn has not, and Director English.
I voted abstain, and try it again.
There we go.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, I still need, no, I'm sorry, Jack did the abstain. I still need Director English.
Mine's on abstain right there. unless someone else has voted abstain. Oh, Jack did too?
There you go.
I
Two.
did not
There
vote
we
to
go.
abstain.
Two. So,
I
thank you.
voted yes.
What was your vote? It came up as abstain.
I know, but I pushed yes.
Okay.
first.
Maybe I have.
Take it.
All right, the minutes are approved, 8-2, abstentions. Acknowledge of our press. Is Emily here? I don't see her, but she sometimes comes in a little bit late from the press. And we also, of course, have our wonderful VMS people upstairs that are filming this for all of you out there. President's remarks. We have a number of accomplishments this year that you're going to hear about in more detail when each of the committee chairs gives their report. In my estimation, we had 4 major things that this board accomplished this last year. First of all, the land use of common areas, and we thank Lenny Ross, our former president, for helping with that. We had our first town hall concerning that. We also did the solar project, which you're going to hear more about when we get into the committee reports. The update of the bylaws, which passed by a 3-to-1 vote, and we also had a second town hall where that one was concerned. And of course, our 2018 budget, business plan, and reserves plan, which took a lot of time and effort on all members of the board and a lot of time on staff to get that through. So that's my president's remarks, and we'll get to the committee reports when we get over to 11. So I will now turn it over to our attorney, Jeff Beaumont, who is going to introduce those with expired terms, our new people, and do the oath of office. Jeff?
Thank you, Ms. Gilman, and thank you, board, thank you, BMS staff, and thank you, United members, for having me here. This is United's opportunity to meet once a year with its members. This is a meeting of the members, not the board, and it's my pleasure to participate and make sure that the meeting is smooth and the transition goes according to your governing documents and the law. But more importantly, it's my opportunity to thank each and one of you board members for your hard work, dedication, staff's support, and tirelessly working to support the actions of the board and direction of the board, and also to the United members for your participation and contributions to the community. I want to first, in item 7 of the agenda, introduce the directors whose terms have expired, which are Mr. Cash Eckercar. Thank you, Cash. Mr. Jack Bassler. Jack, thank you. Ms. Maxine McIntosh, who is not with us today, and Ms. Juanita Skillman. So special thanks to those directors that served United and its members. With that, shall we move on to item 8?
Item 8.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the directors whose terms are continuing, starting with the directors whose terms are expiring in 2018, including Ms. Janie Durrell, Ms. Pat English, Mr. Stephen Leonard, and Mr. Don Tibbetts. And for those directors whose terms are expiring in 2019 are Ms. Maggie Blackwell, Mr. Gary Morrison, and Mr. Andre Torn. Thank you all. And moving to item
9.
9 on the agenda, to introduce the newly elected directors for 3-year terms, and their terms will be expiring in 2020. Starting with Mr. Cash Eckercar. Welcome, Cash.
Thank you very much. Every United member, I'll do my best to serve you for next 3 years. Thanks.
And new to the board, Mr. Manuel Armendariz. Welcome.
Armendariz.
Armendariz, I apologize. Mr. Raza Bastini, welcome. And Ms. Juanita Skillman.
Moving right along. Let's get to number 10. I'd like to invite Manuel and Reza to join us on the dais. And Jack, thank you for all of your work and help.
Are we supposed to give the presentation?
We'll give it back to him afterwards. He got the whole thing when he left. Another certificate right there. Let's see, Heather, she was doing. Thank you, Jack. All right, the oath of office for all the directors. So if you'll all stand, we've asked Jeff to do that.
Thank you, Board. I was asked for all members' knowledge to give the oath of office this year, which I haven't done in the past. And in thinking about what this means, I did a little soul searching and research. I first started with just really looking at what does the oath of office mean? Under Merriam-Webster's dictionary, it's referenced as an official promise by a person who has been elected to office to fulfill the duties of the office according to the law. And that pretty much sums it all up. That's where my research stopped. And I felt that there was no further time needed on my end to prepare because at the end of the day, these directors are serving an office upon which they're elected to serve on behalf of United's members. And the law is very clear with respect to volunteer members of a residential homeowners association, which United is, in a cooperative living structure. Each officer and each director is obligated to act in the best interests of United and its members as a whole. They're required to act in a way they feel is best for United, in a way that they feel represents United and its members, and to make decisions with reasonable inquiry, which means leaning on professionals, reaching out to experts, making inquiry to staff, gathering information, deliberating, considering that information, and making informed decisions. Not decisions on a reactive basis, but decisions after due care. That's called the business judgment rule, and each director is obligated to abide by that standard of conduct. Directors are also obligated to uphold United's governing documents. These are the governing documents that each member, by electing membership in United, agreed to abide by, and upon which these directors have agreed to enforce. And the governing documents include the Articles of Incorporation of United, the bylaws, the occupancy agreement, and duly adopted rules and regulations. And these are the documents and law upon which that definition of oath of office refers to, and upon which each of these directors have agreed to abide by. So with that, I ask that each director, upon me concluding this message, agree that you'll uphold with your right hand up and promise to uphold this oath of office, and in doing so, to act with the utmost respect, courtesy, professionalism, and dignity to each other, to staff, and to United's members. And so I ask you, do you promise to take this oath of office?
I do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Maybe a little formal, but we are a formal board, and I think it was important that we understand what our duties and responsibilities are as a board member. Now we get to the State of the Mutual. And I'm going to go alphabetically by the different committees and ask the chairs of those committees to give a report. Some have visual aids and some do not, just on what their committees have been doing and maybe what they're looking at for the future. So we'll start off with alteration standards and controls. Jamie? That's what you get for being an A.
Goodness sakes. On May 9th, 2017, United Architectural Control and Standards Committee charter was approved, and our committee was formed. So what does this committee do? We meet with United members requesting alterations to their unit, sometimes with their architect or engineer requesting committee's approval for their alteration. We discuss the request sometimes with many questions. If necessary, our committee will tour the project. This gives us more information. The committee decision is made, and the recommendation of the committee is then sent on to the United Board for final approval. The Architecture Control and Standards Committee responsibility is to recommend approval or denial of all requests for non-standard alterations, modifications, or alterations that have generated neighbor objections. We discuss compliance and existing standards, conformity with local and state building codes. We recommend new architectural standards and any revision of all mutual architectural standards. The committee shall ensure that all structural alterations, including any internal and external physical changes, performance without prior written consent of the mutual. Consent is given either by proper processing of approval alteration standards or use or the variance request process. Final recommendation shall be approved by the United Board of Directors at their monthly board meetings. We meet the fourth Tuesday of the month, or when necessary, reviewing staff recommendations regarding compliance with architectural standards or variance requests, conducting tours, and providing communication to the community. Many requests of alterations may be handled over the counter in the Property Services Department, Permit Department, as a standard alteration, such as skylights, window replacements, water heater relocation. If the alteration requested is not a standard alteration, such as a bathroom addition or split, room addition, enclosed atriums, outside washer and dryer storage cabinets, changing entry doors, or the color of the entry door, and changing plumbing, split ductless, heat pumps, and many more. Other items we discuss or working on is alteration materials for dry rot, revised guidelines for alteration or upgrading your unit, conformance deposits, variances, and alteration fees. I'd like to acknowledge my wonderful committee and staff members. I don't know if are you showing the slides by chance?
I'm showing the slides as you're going.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's very hard to do both here. So I'd like to acknowledge my wonderful committee and staff members. Jack Bassler, he's been a board member and a retired architect who is leaving the committee as a board member, and hopefully we can get Jack back as one of our advisors. With all of his wonderful acknowledge, we really appreciate him. Don Tibbetts, board member and our current maintenance construction chairman for many years. Cash Eckerbar, and I'm sorry I'm not very good at pronouncing your name, Cash, is a board member, and also he is a maintenance, excuse me, I lost my place here. He's a retired manufacturing engineer, and also, as I said before, a board member. Riza Bastani, I welcome you to the board, and he has been one of our advisors, and he is a retired electrical engineer. We have someone, also another advisor. We have two advisors that are not here today, and one of them is Michael Merang. He's currently working as a structural engineer and finds time to come away from his business and help us with our committee. The last person I'd like to mention is Kay Anderson, who is one of our advisors and currently working as a construction manager. I am very, very happy and so pleased to have such professionals working on our alterations committee. I'm very blessed with that. I also cannot thank the staff enough for all their wonderful hard work assisting United members along with our committee. And I would like to mention them also. Our staff that assists us is Brett Crane, Gavin Fogg, and the secretary, Eve Morton, that keeps me kind of in line. At our August committee meeting, we welcomed with open arms our new manager of alterations, Kurt Winman. Somehow he's already caught on with staff and they say, uh-oh, here she comes, she's trouble. The committee's goal is to improve standard alterations, so alteration process will not have to go through our staff. We're trying to standardize an awful lot of the process, so it's a lot easier for you as a member when you come to the permit department, that you don't have to go through the whole process of our committee and then also on to the board. So I just want to thank the staff and my committee for the privilege of being their chairman. It's been a great experience for alteration and standard requests, and along with, I've just been really honored to be part of this committee, and thank you.
Thank you, Janie. Thank you, Janie. And I might say for a brand-new committee, they have done a lot. The second, going down alphabetically, would be finance. And so, Pat, as our treasurer, do you have a few words for us?
Yes, I do have a few words. First of all, we've been able to keep our delinquencies way under, and I believe that they're up to maybe 80,000 for the whole United Mutual. And our home sales have been increasing very nicely. I think it's like 15% over the year, which is really good. So we can't complain there. Then we're currently seeking information for earthquake insurance, which we may or may not get. It just depends, but it's looking pretty good right now that we will probably come up with earthquake insurance. Then as far as information for reimbursement of costs that the state has created some certain bills that are going to cost United money. There's a possibility, I'm not sure it's true yet, but there's a possibility that the insurance may reimburse us. For example, if we end up going into this electric car thing with the improvements in the carports, it's possible, not probable right now, but possible that the insurance company may reimburse us for it, because these carports are going to cost us $120,000 a piece, and that's for electric cars, which not too many of us have. And then I would just like to mention a little bit about Lenny Ross's land use resolution. He had a resolution out some time ago, and he wanted to have, I believe it was 100 square feet for the people that wanted to go into the common area. And I thought he had a very good resolution. Unfortunately, it was not his resolution that ended up getting passed, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. We appreciate all your work as our treasurer this year. Next, we have governing documents, and that's mine. I'd like to thank my committee members, Maggie Blackwell and Steve Leonard. And especially, I would like to ask to acknowledge and thank our resident advisors, without whose knowledge, background, and experience we really would not have been able to do what we did this year. And that's Bev Ann Storm, Mary Stone, and Barbara Copley. Now, our staff advisor is Lori Moss, but the heart and soul of our staff is Eve Morton, who keeps us on track and does a fantastic job of keeping together all of the notes. And our meetings are mostly talking and notes and ideas and throwing out things, and somehow or other she manages to get those all together for us. So she does a great job. And I'd also like to give special kudos to our attorney, Jeff Beaumont, because everything that we do, he reviews to make sure that it's legal, gives us any concerns, and helps us in drafting resolutions. So what have we done this year? The land use policy, which was a culmination of about 5 years worth of work, back and forth, back and forth. We did get that passed. The election policies and procedures that were brought up to date to coincide with our bylaws. The property services forms for resales and subleases, which were updated and brought up to date. We're still in the process of some of those, but we're trying to simplify those to make it easier, especially with our new website, to be able to get things on so that realtors or residents who want to sublease have all of the rules and regulations. It's very perplexing when people come in and say, well, I didn't know about that. So we're trying to make sure that everybody has the information out there. Of course, a lot of our work this year was the bylaws. We went from an 80-page antiquated bylaw to about 22 pages and brought it all up to date legally, simplified the language, took out a lot of the legalese. And we've also worked on a checklist for trusts, because people putting their stock certificate in a trust as an estate planning thing has become very, very popular. We have one full-time person doing that. And so Jeff has helped us in developing a checklist so that we can give it to people who are interested in putting their stock certificate into a trust. Okay, the next one would be landscape. Maggie Blackwell.
Okay, I'm on the landscape committee. Andre Toyne is on the landscape committee. Maxine McIntosh was on the committee. And also Kay Anderson was our advisor. And I'd like to thank all the people in landscape who helped us this year. We have, of course, a mixed report on landscape, as everyone knows. And if you've been to the other meetings recently, like Third and GRF, you have heard some of this information that I'm going to give you before, but I'll make it as quick as possible. Okay, our three objectives are to discuss the current challenges in landscape, including staffing, summarize ground maintenance and tree maintenance processes, and demonstrate how landscape will get back on track in meeting our customer service objectives. What are our challenges? Ground maintenance staffing. We have 85 field employees. A longtime recent supervisor retired, and so we have recruitment in process. 7 open positions in the process of being filled, we hope. 10 new employees in 2017 are still training. Our people are working very hard and very fast. If you see them in your cul-de-sac, you will notice that their feet hardly touch the grounds, though their hands do touch the plants. We have additional training needed, first aid, CPR, and fall protection for those who work on the slopes. Other landscape challenges this year: winter storm season with heavy rainfall. That reduced the amount of corrective pruning and slope work that could be completed during the growing season, which must be completed. Significant improvements to soil conditions and health of plants, leading to tremendous plant, tree, turf, and weed growth during the growing season. Growth is phenomenal. Hooray, hooray. Maybe. Heavy weed seed accumulation during the drought all sprouted this year. 7 years of seeds were lying in the soil. They were so thrilled with the rain, they began to sprout. Wonderful. So we're suffering from that. But maybe only this year. Maybe they all popped up. Okay. Weekly mowing has needed to begin earlier. Our shrub growth. We have a picture of a... Let's see the next slide. All right, the one with the house in it, with the unit in it, that shrub that is growing taller now than the roof line, is supposed to be about 5 or 6 feet tall. It's been enthusiastically growing this year, as has the hibiscus on the right, which is also ordinarily kept about 4 or 5 feet high, which now looks to be 8 or 10. This is examples of the growth you see everywhere. And on the next slide, the kikuyu grass. Kikuyu is very healthy. It is a weed. It loves to grow. We have a border of dirt between the shrub beds and the turf so that the mowers can move freely through there. When they get to the edge, they stop, they go back. They cannot mow in where this grass is growing, so we have to use a weed whacker to get that out of the way. And that's a one-man job, wandering around doing this everywhere. That's very high labor intensive. So hopefully we can get even some crews out there to remove the grass from the dirt strip that is supposed to allow the mowing to go on. Okay, other landscape challenges. Next one. Seed-producing trees. Ficus and carrotwood have an unusually heavy fruit load this year, leading to numerous calls for off-schedule trimming, and I don't blame residents for calling. Tub grinder, out of service, it's a diesel machine, leading to an accumulation of green waste. Air Quality Management District re-permitting process is underway, and we hope to get a non-diesel engine when they finally figure out which one is okay. SCE has worked at gates 5 and 6 and has not restored the damage done by the work as well as usual. Okay, on the next slide, we have a picture of one of these trees. It has fruits all over the trees and fruit nuts on the ground. Very thick, very annoying. They stick to everything. They're hard for people with walkers to walk through. This tree now must be off-schedule pruned. It wasn't scheduled to be pruned this year, but this cannot go on. It has more fruits than ever before, and we hope than ever again. All right, now our SCE work, the next slide. This is a sample of SCE. Bless them, they work very hard for us in the village and give us good electricity. However, they have not been cleaning up as well as usual this year. As you can see, there are a lot of rocks on the surfaces, a lot of things. These are partly in process, but some of them are not. On the next page, you see a lawn repair that was done, but instead of the turf being rolled back and the dirt being piled on and the rocks going later, so the rocks go first into the hole. Whoopsie, the rocks are now still on the surface, so we will have to remove those rocks, re-amend the soil, and replant the grass. So we'll seed that over, and then it'll be okay. What is the landscape department's scope of service? Well, for turf, I'm on 13?
Yeah, it's up there.
There we go, okay. We have mowing, repair, replacement, fertilizer, and clean off the sidewalks. In the winter months, we do it every 14 to 21 days, usually. In the warmer months, we do it 9 to 12 days, usually. In the summer months, we do it every week. Well, this week we had to do it a whole lot more. In September, we had to start weekly mowing, which is months earlier than it should be. So that's very labor intensive. Then all of a sudden, these people are working and not doing the other things that we could be doing at this time. Next slide. On the grounds maintenance, I'm on number 14. We have shrub beds and slopes, pruning, raking, weeding, edging, mulch distribution, replanting, straighten garden walls, and remove and replace dead plants. Frequency, you usually have 2 or 3 visits per cul-de-sac in October to May, and then May to October, 3 visits per cul-de-sac. So that's the bush people go around supposedly 5 or 6 times a year. Well, the growth this year was so phenomenal that they couldn't get out of each cul-de-sac. You can't move to one until you finish the one you have. Some cul-de-sacs only got 3 services this year. But because it's cooling down right now, and because we have Saturday workers, we can catch up to this, hopefully, within the next few months as the growth slows down. But we're working like crazy, and the Saturday team was an excellent idea. Okay, United schedule and pruned. Pruned in September on the left side. Notice that the trees are very nicely shaped. They are an enhancement to the buildings. Look at on the right. The landscape envelops the buildings. Where are the windows? We see all the shrubbery growing up so high and so vigorously that you can hardly see the windows, you can't tell the shape of the building, the trees hanging over the top, and so on. Look at the pictures on the left again. Very nice. We hope to get that soon. All right, tree maintenance. Scheduled and unscheduled. Unscheduled means there was a reason to trim the tree this year as opposed to whenever its regular time was. We also do stump grinding. This is for when we take down a tree. Brush grinding of all the brush. And trimming frequency. Minimum trimming cycle is 32 to 34 months for our 34,000 trees. This is village-wide. That's about 100 trees per month. This year, we had to do many more because they had to be done earlier and because they grew faster and because of the rain damage. Some trees needed attention immediately after our 5 storms this year. How do trees get trimmed? The health of the tree is visibly assessed, starting at the ground and progressing through the canopy. You do the trimming from the ground up, not the top down. Otherwise, if you trim the top up here, then you trim something here, you trim it here, and then you decide, once you get down here, that you want to remove the whole limb. Well, you've done 4 trims on it already, so you have to start looking at it and planning it from the bottom. So they progress that way. You determine the minimum trimming required to remove decay, broken and crossing branches. Notice all the detritus that we have. Well, that, of course, has to be put into that truck back there, and if we're lucky, it gets ground up and then becomes our compost, and if we're not lucky, we have to store it somewhere and get rid of it. This next picture has a picture of our bucket, which has to be used for the tall trees. There we go. So he goes up in the bucket. Then we have people who go up the tree on ladders, and those who work on the ground, and they all have to work together so that everything is completely finished and cleaned up for the residents. Typically, no more than 20 to 25% of the tree's foliage is removed. The tree needs the rest of the foliage in order to endure. So they can't be too enthusiastic, they have to be very careful. And they don't want to disturb any branches that they want to keep. The next slide. A crew of 5 trimmed these 5 trees in one day. And they don't work singly on a tree. It's not like each man has 1 tree. It takes 2 or 3 men in 1 tree this size. So 5 trees in one day. 5 men. So that's part of the 100 a year, or 100 a month, which we had to do more of this year. Okay, next slide. How are we doing with meeting our current cycles? Well, our current schedule, turf mowing. In September, mowing moved to every 9 days, which will be followed by every other week. Frequency in the winter months. Right. We hope it's a cool winter, but not necessarily rainy. But some rain will be good. We don't want a drought again. Okay, the current schedule, shrub beds and slopes. At this time of year, right now, the emphasis is on weed removal, spent flower removal, and light pruning. However, the rain has substantially improved the health of plant material, causing much more growth than normal. Therefore, there is substantially more pruning necessary. Weed growth has been excessive as well. So we intend to resume 5 to 6 visits per year per cul-de-sac. We will do that as soon as possible, but you can only go to the next cul-de-sac when you finish the first one. There's no use doing half of it, going on to the next one, and then trying to retrack and so on. So you have to finish one before you go on. The crews can move ahead gradually from one to the other. It isn't like they stand up and march, but they can move gradually as they are finished with their tasks. They can move to the next place. So we hope that that will do well. As I say, our workers are very energetic this year, very energetic, and they're very optimistic. and we hope that everyone supports them. Give them a thumbs up. Don't stop them and say, oh, could you do this? Could you do that? Do call the call center, though. If you have a complaint, please call the call center. Our tree schedule, tree maintenance is about 2 months behind. That would be 200 trees behind. As a result of the flush growth, off-schedule trimming is only done on trees if limbs are a hazard, growing around a street light like in the picture, touching a building, or the overhang is too low or entering someone's balcony. Future plans for United. Ongoing recruitment of new staff to ensure timely filling of vacancies. We would like to maintain a waiting list of people who would like to be hired when we get spots open. We have spots open right now, but we like to keep a list of a few extra that we can hire as needed. We continue to train and develop new staff to replace high-maintenance plant material, particularly during the prior-to-paint process, when they cover everything over with drop cloths and they have to lie it down and smash it anyway. It's a good time to just remove something we don't want. Replace plant material with lower-maintenance, drought-tolerant plants. We may again need drought-tolerant plants. We never know. Utilize ArborPro to identify cycle busters that delay the scheduled trimming and work towards pruning cycles that are based more upon species and situations than on locations, so they can target certain kinds of trees. Provide more proactive communication to residents about schedules via the Globe, emails, Blast, Breeze, and Village Television. Ensure that Resident Services has updated information continually so they may assist residents if they call for service. So we look forward to recovering quickly from this difficult year. And as I say, everyone is flared up and ready to go. So fingers crossed and thumbs up. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Landscape is one of the two areas within our mutual that we get the most comments about, often complaints. So it was very important that we show you what's happening and what's doing, and that our residents understand that we do not have a landscape division just for United. The landscape covers the whole village, so we share them with Third and with GRF. And they're doing a great job of trying to catch up. This has been an unusual year, both in lack of staff and with the weather that we've had, but they're really working at it. And if you have specific problems, call Resident Services and let them know, and we'll try to accommodate. The other division or department that is so big for us is maintenance and construction. So, Don, do you have a report on that for us?
Yes, our committee, our maintenance.
Dr. Tibbetts, your microphone, please. Thank you.
Our committee is composed of 4 directors, 1 advisor, Mr. Dell Ng. Dell is also the head man of Kaiser Permanente Hospital. He's sitting right there. Very intelligent man, very helpful in our committee. Most of our assessments in United goes to staff in the way it should be. After that, most of it goes to the M&C committee. And we do a lot of things yearly that many people don't think about. For example, the TP valve in your hot water heater. When's the last time you thought about that? That costs us $45,000 a year. But we have a lot of programs that you see once in a while, but you don't think about it. Roofing, for example, very expensive. We oversee that. We oversee the cul-de-sac cleaning and repair work, the retarring of that when needed. It's about every 4 years. The elevator maintenance, and of course the painting program are large programs. We've also become more proactive this year on the epoxy lining of our exterior water lines in the manors, we used to replace the pipes every time they would rust out. Now we are relining them and saving a lot of money. You can reline a pipe now down to 1 inch in diameter. Another large program we started this year is the replacement of the old Pushmatic electric panels. Most of them are in gate 1 and 3. When you reset them, you just push them. That's why they're called Pushmatic. Now you click. That's a 10-year program. We have an excellent contract on that. And when the men were going through there and replacing them, we replaced 2 a day. They have found a lot of items that were out of compliance because 50 years ago when they were installed, they were in compliance. But since the 50 years, the law has changed, so we've increased that budget a little bit. So you can rest assured they are being installed correctly, up to date, and they are fire safe. One of our largest problems is starting to grow a little bit is the dry rot problem. And I think I had a picture of one I wanted to show you. I guess it isn't up there yet. But dry rot, we had a picture I wanted to share with you that showed dry rot on a patio. We had a gentleman who liked to keep potted plants. It was almost solid, and he kept them on his patio without a saucer. Of course, water would leak, and once it gets into the wood, it grows like a cancer. And they had to replace the entire upstairs patio. That's happened 2 or 3 times this year. Our newest and biggest project this year was the installation of our solar paneling. And I wanted Steve to talk about that one. Steve is the chairman of what we call the cul-de-sac committee. It's kind of a catch-all of the M&C committee, and he has a lot of responsibilities on that. And he's a committee of 1. Steve?
Thank you, Don. Prior to my appointment to this board in September of 2016, the Standing United Mutual Board elected to take on a contract with Johnson Controls for 3 major projects. One was to replace the Pushmatic electric panels in 82 of our existing 175 laundries. Also to replace all of the hot water heaters in the 175 laundries. We had 2 50-gallon tanks in each laundry, and we've reduced that down now to 1 hot water heater on a 20-gallon. And finally, the 3rd project with JCI was the solar panel project. The installation of the solar panel project started sometime in the early fall of 2016, and it had a target completion date by year end, which was met. From the year end of 2016, it took an additional 2 months to get the proper authorization known as permission to operate from Southern California Edison, and that permission to operate was granted on February 8th and February 9th of this year. We have approximately an 800 kilowatt system, which is comprised of approximately 2,500 solar panels connected to 8 laundry rooms in 4 cul-de-sacs. The system was designed to provide approximately 80% of the total electric used within our common area electricity, all of which is connected in the laundry rooms. To date, from the permission to operate date of February 8th, we have generated approximately 650,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. So we're well on our way. The system is performing well. We have wrapped up all of our contractual obligations with JCI. Our warranties are all in place. We have an operation and maintenance contract with a company called Phoenix for the next year, and they will be responsible for maintaining any service interruptions and also the cleaning of the solar panels. I have been asked on occasion when we're going to add more solar capability within the community, and my response is we aren't. Because the system was designed, as I said, to provide 80% of the electricity. It will probably end up providing about 90% because you generally try to undersize the system. You don't want to produce more electricity than you consume because there's no payback in that from the electric company. The only other thing that I would like to speak to, if I may very quickly, is Pat's comment on the cost of providing additional electric capability for electric cars in this community. I don't know where the $120,000 number that she mentioned comes from, and I'm not looking to get into a conversation at this time. And as far as the number of electric cars in this community, I would like to tell you that in 2014, when I first became an advisor for Third Mutual for their energy committee, we had less than 6 electric cars in the entire Laguna Woods Village. As of November 2nd of this year, we have over 100. So it is a growing trend and will continue to be, and it is something that we have to pay close attention to. GM has said that they are going to convert their entire line of passenger vehicles to all electric, and they are going to introduce 20 new models just in the next 7 years. Mitsubishi will offer 12 electric models by 2012. Volkswagen, all models will be in some form of electric by 2030, and Volvo is going to have their fleet completely electric by 2019. This is a strong and serious trend, and we have to be able to provide our residents with some manner of charging their electric vehicles. Otherwise, new residents who own electric vehicles, who come into our mutuals, whether it's Third or United or Towers, if they don't have a place to charge their vehicles, they most likely will not purchase our manners. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. That's the end of our report, Madam Secretary, Madam President.
Thank you, Steve and John. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to ask Andre for a report from our Preparing for Disaster Committee.
Thank you very much. As soon as I got on the board last year, I was informed that there will be a very exciting opportunity for me, which turned out to be this Disaster Preparedness Task Force. I have some experience in the past working with the organization building in this capacity, so this is a welcome experience to me. We are chartered to recruit good neighbor captains in United and with other assignments to be determined. This was formed since October last year, but we didn't start until June this year because we're waiting for the disaster preparedness task plan finalized. During this process, we work with Disaster Preparedness Task Force of VMS and also with VMS Security Office, Chief Tim Moy. Our first training session was in July, and our effort indicates that we have 75 people attended the training session, and we recruited 26 new good neighbor captains. And the second session, just finishing October 8th, we have 120 residents attended our training session. Out of them, there are 40 people that signed up as good neighbor captains. Actually 50, but 10 of them are already signed up. So we have the 40 new Good Neighbor Captains, 22 of them from United and 18 of them from Third. So this is a very encouraging sign. And we have to attribute success to Cash Acrobat, who helped us design the recruiting flyer, which has been very effective. And as you can see in my picture, I was have that high hat as attraction to get people to sign up as Good Neighbor Captains. And we also have Gary very much involved in information gathering, helping us establish database and provide information to our recruiting process. Basically, what our meeting is planned to be 2 weeks before the training session, because that's where we're going to kick off our recruiting process. And we also have advisors, Mrs. Rader and Catherine Matthews, and our VMS supervisor, security supervisor, Roger Daldry, with us. We're looking to work with them to communicate with disaster preparedness task force and the security department, make sure that we are all working with each other, going to the same goal. During our United Prepare for Disasters task force meeting, all Good Neighbor Captains in United are welcome to join us and discuss any issues that they might run into and see whether we can help them resolve these issues or not, escalated to higher authorities, and make sure that we will work together as a team. We also will work with the Third and the GRF and the VMS staff together to make this program a successful plan. During my campaign for Good Neighbor Captains, I also heard a lot of you mention about the issues related to landscape issue, maintenance construction issue, GRF concerns, priorities, and all these issues. I thank you very much for bringing those issues to my attention, and I will, at the appropriate time, bring those issues to the appropriate committee and the board members and share the information I heard from you with all the board members. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I have
Andre.
a question regarding MNC. Can I pose it now?
Yes, you may.
What has been done for water conservation regarding replacement of toilets, if any?
I didn't understand the question.
The toilet replacement project.
Do you want me to answer that one?
Yes, you.
Yeah, I was pretty much in charge of the toilet replacements, and we did it about 3 years ago. It's still ongoing, but we're doing very well. We've replaced a lot of the toilets. I'm not sure how many right now, but I think it's somewhere around 2,000, I'm guessing. And we're putting in ones that only use, okay, what is it, Don? 2.38 gallons per flush?
Yes. Okay.
2.38 gallons per flush. So we've worked very hard with El Toro Water, and it's doing very well. There's no problem with the toilet.
My second question is regarding as-building drawings. Has there any decision made to as-built plumbing and electrical drawing to reduce the service work?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
As-built drawings.
As-built drawings
Are we going to
of plumbing and electrical. Have any decision been made to as-built this to reduce the service work?
Still under
Has a
consideration.
decision been made to reduce the service?
No, to as-built the drawing in order to reduce the service.
I don't know, you don't understand, I can't answer that. Lori?
Yes. We are working very closely with the city to get as-built. They have a new building official that's very eager and working on a lot of things that are going to expedite the process between the city and VMS. And we're also looking at co-locating in the new facility once we get it remodeled, and the city is more than eager to do that as well a couple days a week to help expedite everything. But we are looking at standard as-builts. The first one that they have drafted is the combination of the bathrooms, so that we can do that maybe as a standard and not necessarily as a variance, since it doesn't impact the outside of a unit. And so a lot of that is going on right now. We hope to roll that out before the end of the year.
Excuse me, Lori, reading the agreement, I felt that, I saw that there has to be a permission from the board for VMS to go and talk to the city. Has that been obtained or not yet?
Well, point of order, Reza, that's really not a matter for this committee. For this particular meeting. This annual meeting, we're just giving reports. I would ask you to bring that up at our regular business meeting, which is coming up on the 17th. And I might mention that that is an issue that is VMS, and it is the whole community. It is not a specific United issue.
Right, and we do communicate with the city on an ongoing basis. I'm the liaison with the city.
All right, lastly, I'd like to report for Maxine McIntosh, who is the chair of our Resident Advisory Committee. A lot of people don't really know or understand about our Resident Advisory Committee. Our Resident Advisory Committee meets the Thursday of every month after our board meeting. And it is an opportunity to come and share, talk, ask questions. We know in board meetings, when you have 3 minutes, sometimes you don't have an opportunity to say all that you want or ask the questions that you want. So the Resident Advisory Committee, and particularly, we have 2 excellent resident advisors on there with long-term knowledge of the community, Nancy Lannon and Kay Anderson. And we invite anybody to come in to that meeting. I'm also on that committee. And so if you want to come in and talk, if you want advice, if you want to be shown in the right direction, who to talk to, et cetera, that's the committee to come to. All right, that is the state of our mutual. We are in good shape financially. We are well versed in projects. We have many, many that are underway that we're working on, our project log. I invite you to come to our Maintenance and Construction Committee meetings and see all of the things that are going on. We get a project log every time, and it shows all of the projects that are being done, what the time period is, how far along they are, what the budget for it is, those kinds of things. So if you have questions on those, please come to the Maintenance and Construction Committee. Now, I've said this before, but I'd like to make the point. In United, we have a process, and that process is that things start at the committee level. Anything that comes to a board starts at the committee level, and the committee discusses it, does research, gets staff input, spends weeks or months looking at different things, and then they make a recommendation to the full board. The full board considers it at the first reading, and then it goes out for member comments for 30 days, and it's the second reading after that 30 days that any final decision is made. So nothing is done off the cuff, if you will, or there. There's a process that has to go through, and if you are interested in any of these things, please come to our committees. All of our committees like member advisors, if you are interested in serving and have expertise in any of the things that we've talked about today, please let us know, because we depend on the expertise of a lot of our member advisors in these committees. All right, we will go to item number 12 now, which is member comments. And I know this is towards the end, which it often isn't in our meetings, but we felt that it would be best to do after we had done the State of the Mutual, because that may answer some of your questions or it may prompt some other questions. So if you would like to make a member comment, it's the usual 3 minutes. And Leslie will be setting the timer. So do you have cards, Leslie?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we'll start with the people who filled out a request to speak card, and then we'll open it to others. Okay.
Do you want me to call them out?
Yes, please.
Okay, so our first up is Rhoda Lindner.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Rhoda Lindner, 2013C. And I must say that I'm impressed by listening to all of these reports with what a tremendously productive year you have all had. It's just, well, the United has had, the Mutual has had, because of all your labor and all the cooperation that was involved, especially with VMS. I mean, the boards have made it possible for VMS to finish its honeymoon and to now be in the stage where we could actually make a criticism of it without fearing that it will fall apart, because now VMS is solid and doing a wonderful, productive job with all of your cooperation and help. So I wanted to say that. I also wanted to say, in response to the landscape situation, that my cul-de-sac 204 was the wonderful beneficiary of a cleanup. We haven't seen anybody doing bushes for months and months and months and months, and some people were complaining. I actually liked what it did to my bushes, but a lot of people were complaining. But they came last week or 2 weeks ago, and they cleaned up everything, and oh, it is a wonderful experience to have that cleanup after that misery. So I haven't heard a single complaint from anybody about anything in the past 2 weeks. Excuse me. The other thing I want to say, and this is not really meant as a criticism of VMS, but just as a comment, sometimes things need to be tweaked, and sometimes things need to be commented on. And the usual matters, usually things about not knowing how things are done because they haven't been here 20 years. Little small thing. When we have elections in United, we announce the results. Not just who was elected, but how many ballots there were and who got what votes. I don't know whose decision it was to not do that this time, but I would like to know how many ballots there were on this election and who got how many votes. And that has not been information that I could find anywhere in the public world during the past month. So thank you very much, and good luck for next year.
Thank you, Rhoda. We will be publishing that in the Breeze. I guess it didn't go out in the newspaper, just the election of the candidates, but the details we will be publishing. And if you're interested, Maggie has it right here.
Are we going to wait until the end, or shall I?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay. Cash Accra card 1,287, which was 25.3%. Manuel Armandaris, 1455, which is 28.7%. Reza Bastani, 818, which is 16.1%. And Juanita Skillman, 1,509, which is 29.7%. We had 87 blank ballots turned in. We had a total voter turnout of 1983, which is a 31.8 turnout, which is very good. Thank you very much for everyone who voted.
Thank you, Maggie. All right, our next.
Up next is Carrie Stiles Sr.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And I am a recent resident of the village. My wife and I lived up in Rossmore, Walnut Creek for 5 years. Knowing the logistics and the difference in the two communities, what I have gathered here from talking to neighbors and from talking to other residents is they feel like they're totally separate from the board, that the board is authoritarian, that it is being processed without a lot of input from the actual residents. Now, I know you have the committees, and I know you call people in to see the committees. The difference between Rossmore, Walnut Creek, and this community, of course, that's half the size. But I had direct communication with the president of the Mutual because I had an abusive neighbor, verbally abusive, and I started writing letters. There was a clerk who worked for the heads of the mutuals, and my letters were transferred to the president. The president called me several days later, gave me guidance on how to stop this verbal abuse of my wife and I. I followed those directions, and then eventually a letter came from the mutual to the resident, and she never said another word that it was abusive. So the feeling there was the board was with us, was working for us, was doing the best to support us. Here, in talking to people that are my neighbors and other residents, they have a feeling that they're not part of this. You are not part of them. I don't know what the solution would be because of the size of the mutual, but I do think, an example, a board member that was running knocked on our door and asked us to make comments on any improvements. So to get out to the people is, I think, a one possibility that should be considered somehow or another to get the board members or the committee members out and knocking on doors and talking to us as I walk my dog in the morning or the evening. That, to me, would be very, very important for improving the relationship between the board, the committees, and the residents. Because we want to feel confident in the work that you're doing, and we watch Channel 6, we come to the meetings or whatever we do. It's just important to me.
Okay, your time is up.
To be able to appreciate that.
Thank you for your comments. Next, Leslie.
Tony Dower.
Morning, Tony Dower, 96C. I'd like to welcome the new members, and I look forward to your help. If we ever have a question, we can call in and get help. Something reminded me of an issue a long time ago. I'd like to urge all the residents to make sure you have a door key turned in to the security department, because they may have to get into your place in emergencies due to fire or disappearance of you from being around for a while. So make sure you have a door key turned in. Anyhow, I wanted to ask that when you vote on GRF candidates, there's two issues that are very important for me that you find out the answers from candidates that want to be on GRF. Number one, very important issue is the dog park. What is the future? Could they consider putting in a dog park on Moulton Avenue down towards the garden center? They don't need to expand the garden center. There's too many shade trees there. That'd be a wonderful place to add a dog park besides the one we already have. Also, 200 people a week play in Clubhouse 3 in the billiard room. And I hear rumors that GRF might be wanting to remove that for some reason. And I would hope you would ask future members for GRF if they would keep it there. Why have it into another performance room that only has 15 or 20 people a week that would use it, where there's 200 people happy now? And besides, there's 6 magnificent billiard tables there. We play 8-ball, we play 9-ball Wednesday nights, great social interaction, not isolation. If you put them in Clubhouse 1, what are you going to take out of there? Are the pinochle people going to use them for pinochle tables? I hope not. And also, I'd like to ask people to consider senior games are coming up here. Sign up for senior games right down the hall here, and you'll have a lot of fun with that. And I just hope that you'll continue to do service. Like when I was on the board, I ran for the board because I wanted to help people save money. Maybe you could consider 3 out of 4 people around me are single people. Why not consider letting them rent their second bedroom to make a little money for both people, the one that lives there and the one that's going to be the renter there? It would only help people to be able to last longer because, you know, when I retired, gas was around $1 a gallon. But boy, things are really tough now. It's over $3 a gallon. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony.
Up next is Roberta Burke.
Yes, Roberta Burke, 933B. I'd like to thank all of you for the enormous hours that you all put in. I hope that maybe with new board members, you can find a way to cut that back, and maybe we wouldn't have such difficulty in getting people to run for the board, because it really is an unconscionable amount of time. I do have to also say I'm not always pleased with the results that come about, but that's neither here nor there. I'm very glad. I have some questions related to what you talked about, mostly solar energy and stuff. But I'm very glad that this gentleman has come up and said what he said as a new member, because I don't know how many of you heard me say something at the GRF meeting, and I was going to wait for the next meeting to say this, but I'm living here approximately 18 years. We are all neighbors. You're my neighbors, I'm your neighbors, and that's true of everybody out there. But over the last few years, whether it's younger people who are coming in and don't know the experiences of the past, I really don't know. But especially now, this past year and a half, since we've become, since we no longer have PCM and we now have our own people working for us, and there's been talk of it being a city, I envisioned our place functioning as a city. But I didn't think that we were going to lose exactly what this gentleman talked about, that individual neighborly kind of understanding and contact, that when we come before a board and have a personal problem, we're going to be told, oh, it's not here, or you're just not allowed to rent. You're not allowed to rent your apartment. I mean, there is an attitude that's developing. And it's not that I'm looking to find fault, because I love this place, and I have a lot of respect for all of you. But I think you should be careful that we are your neighbors. And when we come to you with problems, you have to try to help us solve those, or with ideas, not to be poo-pooed and put down and negated simply because we have an idea that's not something you people are interested in hearing about. You talk about all these things that you've changed in documents and whatnot. In my view, they've all chipped away at our lifestyle here, our personal financial things, our inheritance things, and we still are sitting for the 18 years that I'm here waiting for lighting to be able to walk at night in a community that's warm and inviting. So I'm asking you, when you make all these changes, think of us as human beings and neighbors with problems. Not just because this is the right way, and this word was this way, and that word was this way. One example that I'm going to give you right now, and I'm going to lose all my time. I love listening to our attorney. But that in itself showed a picture of the separation of neighbors to neighbors. A neighbor should give that. I love what you said. I was very anxious to hear that. But we are a community. This is not the city hall. This is our community of neighbors. And I would hope that somehow what we do here now and in the future, that shows, and that is what is the consideration. And thank you, and I'll have to leave my questions for another time.
Thank you, Roberta.
Next up is Carol Feldman.
Hi, I'm Carol Feldman, 695Q. I love what he said. I love what Roberta said, and I second whatever they say, because we all feel that way. I'm wondering, is United going to get solar panels? That's one thing. If a person who lived in one of the units plants a bunch of stuff and they no longer own that unit, people moved in now and they don't know that they're responsible, I guess, for it. And the tree, they have a palm tree and a pomegranate tree, and they're like huge, just huge. And of course, landscaping doesn't do anything to them because they didn't put them in. But it's not the fault of the people who live there now. The other thing is, regarding, I live upstairs, and regarding the things like alterations, they said, at one point you could have wooden floor. I've been here 20 years. Then they said, no, you can't have wooden floors. Well, I have 3 sons who are firemen, and they're also building contractors before they were firemen. And I always commiserate with them. And And I tell them, they said, Mom, well, first of all, my neighbors downstairs, I don't know what their floors are, but I hear them. I hear them talking. They talk very loud. I hear their television. I hear them, they have company. I hear that. I live by myself, and I'm hardly ever there. And there's now hardwood flooring that has something you can put under it. I don't know what it's called. And it's quiet. It's actually quiet. My kitchen and my bathrooms are tile. The tile makes noise. The hardwood flooring, and I'm usually in my socks, is quiet. So, I can't put the hardwood floors in because they're saying, well, you can't have hardwood floors on the second floor, but you can hear the neighbors downstairs without having hardwood floors. And see, I had stuff written down here, but I can't read my writing. I think that's pretty much it. And I really feel like this gentleman does, that the board is the board, and it's like going to the king or the queen, and you don't really, deal with them. You deal with the people who are sort of underneath the board. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and our last speaker so far, we have Mary Stone. Nice little U-turn there.
Mary Stone, 356C. I'd like to thank the board for all their service, and I'd like to remind the members of the community that they speak about the community, and they are the members of this community. And it's amazing that they are so critical when they don't put their seats on any of these seats that you, the members of this board, are sitting in. We have a number of candidates, just enough to fill the seats. Where are all the people in this community who want to tell the board what to do, but aren't willing to get up there and do the work of the board? We need people in this community to participate in the governance, not just sit back and complain. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
And that concludes our speakers.
Okay, all right, would you like to speak? Would you give your name and matter number, please?
Michael Landry, 693B. I just want to say bravo, bravo, bravo to Steve with the solar and the electric car possibilities of charging. I think if we started off with 6 originally, we have 100 now. When we have more possibilities, more of us will. I don't have an electric car now simply because I have no place to charge it. So thank you for that, absolutely. And I hope it becomes affordable in the near future. And we talk about being neighborly. And I'm horribly sociable, and maybe I shouldn't be because I get hurt by people who let me down. But when we talk about the situation where if you see something that's wrong, report it, it's tattling on your neighbor. That doesn't encourage neighborliness. Maybe talk to your neighbor about what the problem might be. I just have a problem going to the board or to the administration saying, so-and-so is doing this. I feel like a 4th grade girl tattling on my neighbor. So I would ask you to rethink that situation. I'm sorry, 4th grade child, not only girl. I didn't mean to be sexist. And also about the landscaping, that was a wonderful presentation, and I really appreciated it. I'm a plant freak, and so when I hear people who are from large cities saying, this and this and this and this, that tree's half dead. No, it's not half dead. It's in its dormancy, possibly. So, and I have a friend who's from New York City, excuse me, who, if she sees one dead leaf on a plant, well, you need to throw that away, it's dead. No, it isn't dead, baby. It's just, that's what happens to plants. I think the landscaping people are doing a fantastic job. When the trees get trimmed, they look a little naked for a while, but they'll regrow the leaves and they won't be as naked. And I'd like to be on your committee at some point.
Oh.
I really would.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other member comments? If not, I'll ask the board for responses, and we'll start with Gary.
Michael Landry first. I also want to thank Steve Leonard. Sorry. I also would like to thank Steve Leonard for his time, energy, and he knows what he's talking about, and my kudos to him. And Mary Stone, thank you, because you pretty much said what I was going to say, and this is to Mr. Stiles and Roberta. I'm on Budget Committee, both United and GRF. We were putting the budget together for 4 months and met daily with one committee, another committee, or whatever, for a couple hours every single day. In any of those committee meetings, and none of the United meetings, did we had more than 4 or 5 people show up. My question, and then at the last GRF meeting, we had this whole room filled with people that were complaining about room rates. Where were these people during the 4 months that we were putting the budget together? I guess, you know, my feeling is I've spent a lot of time working with staff and putting a budget together, and then to have the very last day, the room filled with people. My question is, you were invited to all of the meetings. Why weren't you there? Thank you.
Okay. Raisa, do you have any responses to the member comments?
No.
Cash?
Yes. First of all, let me thank every one of you who came up here and spoke. That is what every one of United and every one of the village should do, because this is our village. And Roberta said the nice words. Mary said the nice, everybody's talking the same language, but we're talking about different approaches. I want to thank Rhoda for her kudos she gave us. It's a hard work. We work relentlessly. Every minute of the day, every minute, I think of what I can do to improve our place. To Kerry, I would like to say that I'll give you my phone number. If you have any problem, call me, because my number is 949-217-1950. And I bet every one of us would love to hear you or anyone else talk about what we can do. I want to thank Tony for bringing the door key issue. That relates very well, because look at Andre's efforts. He's trying to get the disaster preparedness together. It's not when that disaster will happen, it's when. And it's best to have us all speaking the same language and be ready for it. But having only 20 and 30 people show up at the disaster GNCs, the Good Neighbor Captains, is not enough. We need one from every building if possible. We need as many people that we can do this. I don't really have any comments on dog park and billiard room because I wasn't following that issue, but I would say that if the residents want it, we should not eliminate it. And Mike Landry, you have an excellent idea as well, but I would suggest Steve, with his knowledge in solar, maybe we should look at getting on a program to start electric charging stations, maybe one every cul-de-sac or whatever, every carport. depending on how many electric car usage turns out to be. Maybe we should look at that. That's all the comments I have. Please, everybody, attend the meetings. Last GRF meeting I attended, there were like 5,000 people. I don't know how many, but there were 2 overflowing rooms. Why don't we have more than 25 people in this room? You know, everyone should be concerned and be active and proactive. And that's what we are here, and we like everybody's input just as well. Again, if you want my number, 217-1950, 949 area code. Thank you.
Thank you, Cash. Maggie?
Thank you. 6,323 residents or members in United. I do not want you all calling me. Thank you very much. I don't feel that's feasible. I work many days a week on committee stuff and on landscape and on publications and communications to help residents understand what is going on. And that keeps me from wandering around the village and saying, what problems do you have? Well, let's see, my garbage disposal is backed up. Somebody parked in my parking place last week. This and this and this. Your gripe may be right, but it may not be something for me. We have a service center right across the hall. They have phone lines, they have email. You can write them, you can email them anything. There's a form you fill out if you want a tree removed. There's a form you can fill out if you have any landscape request. Palm trees and pomegranates, I hope that you fill out a form either for landscape or for compliance, because both of those departments would help you on that issue. So maybe you should check and just send an email online to the service department or give them a call. They will switch you around to whatever line you need. I cannot answer questions on solar. I cannot answer questions on the budget. I cannot answer questions on GRF. I can only answer what I work on and what I know and what I read about. So I'm limited. Sorry, don't all call me. But thank you. I do appreciate people that do come forward. I want you to communicate. I want you to use that call center. I want you to send emails, please. I also want you to read the Breeze online. I want you to get all the online communication you have and look on the website. It's fabulous. It tells you what happens everywhere and what's going on, who we are looking for employment. I just told my cleaning lady today that we needed landscape workers, and I thought maybe she might know someone. So use the website, read the Globe, use TV6. There is information on TV6. I mean, they've got a crawler going one way and a crawler going the other way and a crawler going this way. It's phenomenal. So there is information. Try to find it, and we are trying to reach you. We have more communications with you this year than ever, ever, ever before in the history of this community. More people are trying to reach out to you. If you catch someone on the way to the elevator, on the way to the restroom, they may not be exactly pleasant to hear from you right at that time, but they do want to hear from you. So come to, landscape meeting is tomorrow at 1:30 in the Sycamore Room. And you can come every month that we have a meeting, which is usually every other month. You're welcome to come and give us a talk or give us a listen and see what goes on. Thank you very much.
Okay. Start over here, Andre.
Well, I really appreciate everybody's input on about the board, and I think board does need to communicate a little bit better on issues. And I understand one of the board member is planning to quit at this point, so hopefully there will be another opening available, and at this point, if it happens, then there will be another opportunity for other people to join the board. So prepare and watch out, and if there's announcement, then you need to jump on the board and help out the board to make it happen, okay? And this is your community, only you can make it happen. Thank you very much.
I just want to say, Andre, that is confidential information. Nothing has been done, no resignations have been received, have been approved, and until that is done, it is not public information to go out to the community.
Oh, I apologize for that. I thought it was already announced.
No, it is not. It's not a done deal. Steve, do you have a comment?
I have a few. To Mr. Stiles, welcome to the community. Just doing a little rapid-fire research here with my computer. Rossmore in the co-ops has 3 boards. And my understanding is that each one of those boards represents some portion of the community. So in the co-ops, you have 3,350 manners in the First Mutual, the Second Mutual, and the Eighth Mutual, going 1,900 people, 1,400 people, 100 people. I guarantee you, all of us would have a much easier time on this board if we only had 1,900 or 1,400 units to deal with. Not a conversation. I'm just replying to you. So, and to your concerns about information and getting things done, we had a transition from a prior management company to a new management company about 2 years ago, and we are in a transition phase, and we are very fortunate to have Mr. Hudson as the CEO of VMS. And VMS has its own board, GRF has its own board, and the number of outlets for information in this community are now outstanding. Not the number is outstanding. It's very large, and the quality of the information is now outstanding, which it did not used to be. So just to reiterate quickly to Maggie's remarks, the first line of anything that needs to be done here is to pick up the phone and call resident services. It doesn't matter whether it's litter, parking, landscaping, whatever it is, there's someone available. And that department is expanding as Mr. Hudson has plans to do that. Of the 12,736 residences that we have in Laguna Woods, over 9,600 of them have internet. So everyone should be able to get email bulletins from our management company, which go out all the time, called the Village Breeze. If you're not, and not just to you, but to anyone who's watching this video live or in a replay or looks it up on YouTube next month, next year, or whatever, register, get the Breeze. We have the Orange County Register, which is also available online. You don't have to subscribe to the paper. You can go online. There is a special section for Laguna Woods. We have a phenomenal new website. There is so much information that's being provided, which continues to go. And the last line of communications really, as Maggie said, I don't want to hear from 10,000 people. If we have 6,323 units at 1.5, just using a number, people per unit, that's almost 10,000. I don't want to hear from 10,000 people. If you want to come to the committee meetings, that's great. What you are always free to do, what everyone is free to do, is to write your concerns and deliver them to the board. You can bring them to the reception desk down here, and they will go forwarded up to the business office, and every board member will get a copy of your correspondence. You can mail it to this building at 24351 El Toro Road. So there are many, many opportunities to speak with the board. To Michael Landry on the electric car, If you purchase an electric car, you may plug into your carport outlet if you register, get a sticker, and pay $20 a month for the electricity. So by all means, feel free if you are so endeavored. Solar, I think I covered pretty well to Carol Feldman. We don't have any mechanism to be able to put solar on the manors individually because there are so many of them, and the recapture on that would be unbelievable. So the residents themselves, or owners, as I should say, stockholders, may make an application to put solar on their unit. It is required by state law that we allow members to be able to do that in their units. So by all means, feel free. And I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Manuel, do you have any comments?
No. Again, for the audience, excuse me. Again, for the audience, I don't want to say anything controversial because I'm a new member here yet, but I do want to make a couple of observations, and that's that. First, I want to thank everyone here that might have voted for me, and even though I would have become a director anyway, at least it showed me the support that's out there for some of the views that I've expressed. I saw the presentation there on landscaping, and I was very pleased to hear, I didn't see it in print or anything like that, but I was told that Brad Hudson had made a statement that 18 months ago, he observed that the landscape was not to the quality that it should be. And although he did wait 18 months, at least now they're trying to implement a program on that. So far, up to this point, again, I don't want to be critical, but you know, most of the statements I've heard about it have just been excuses. So I'm hoping to see some improvements. And that's a committee I hope to be involved in so that I can suggest some ideas that I've gotten myself and I've also gotten from residents that I think would be a big improvement so that the residents would feel like the quality of their service is being provided at the level that they expect. And as far as the atmosphere, I kind of come away from talking to a lot of residents about being made to feel like the customer. The customer is always right. These services are supposed to be provided to them, and they're supposed to be provided at a reasonable cost, at a price that they'd be willing to pay. So with my experience as a CPA, that's another area that I plan to look at very closely. And that raises one other point that I wondered about, and that's that I believe the 2018 business plan should be coming out pretty soon, and I had a couple of questions related to that. Last year, and I've been in the community now for a couple of years, and I've been familiar with the community for over 25 years when I helped my in-laws move into the community. So I've seen all the changes. And the only reason I have the 2017 business plan is because I served on the audit committee. So the first question I have is, when is that business plan going to be released? Is it made available to all the residents, or are they notified that it's available if they go to the administration building? I think that's a very important question that should be answered here to the group. I don't know the answer. So again, thank you for your support. I hope I can deliver on my commitment. And I again have to express the fact that, yes, the board members here work very hard to do what they think is best for the community. I recognize that. But that doesn't mean they always make the best decisions and produce results. That's why I'm willing to work on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. Pat, you have some comments?
Yes, I'd like to comment a little bit about the solar issue. I think Carol Feldman talked about it, and Cash also talked about it. And I'd like everybody to make sure that they're quite aware that last year we took from our contingency fund nearly $4 million to pay for that common area electricity. That's how much we took out. We haven't put anything back in to reimburse it. And that's true, and you darn well know it. Now, whether it was $120,000 per carport or less. I don't remember. I thought it was 120,000 though, but it was a lot of money. And that is only for common area electricity. In other words, if people want to plug in their cars and that, they can do that, and it'll be the common area electricity for the laundry rooms and things like that. Thank you.
Don, no, thank you. Don, do you have?
No, everything I was going to comment has already been commented on. I have nothing to add.
Okay. All right, Jamie?
I agree with Dawn. Thanks for your comments over here. And please, if you get my phone number, don't call between 2 and 4 in the morning.
Same goes here.
Yeah. Just a couple of things. Number one, Manuel, every November, and coming out this November, a package is sent to every resident owner of shareholder in this village, and it contains the business plan, the budget, all of that information. It goes out every November to every resident. A lot of times they get this in the mail and they throw it away. They don't want to read it. They don't understand what's in it. There's other information in there with new things that are coming out that we have done in the last year. The schedule of fees, the schedule of penalties, all of those kinds of things, by law, are published once a year and sent to every single resident. So you get the information. The question is, do you see it or not? Do you read it or not, or do you throw it away? And that also goes with one of the comments that we had about landscape from Carol. The responsibility for landscape that's put in by an individual resident becomes the responsibility of whoever buys that unit. And they sign that as a landscape alteration that they are responsible for. They know, just like they're responsible for any alteration, skylights, ice machine, whatever, in their unit, they have to sign that they are taking responsibility for that. Now, if something comes up and they don't want to be responsible for it anymore, they can contact landscape. They can take it out. They can revert it back to our standard. There probably will be a charge, but that certainly can be done. We do have a compliance department. Corey, I don't think you really understand that in as large a community as this, we can't go around knocking on doors. It's impossible. But we do listen. We get letters. We get phone calls all the time, emails. And we also have a wonderful compliance department. If you've got a neighbor-to-neighbor dispute, like noisy neighbors that you were talking about, that's what goes through compliance. It's confidential. The rest of us are not going to know what's being done on some of those issues, but whether it takes it to social services for mediation, whether it gets the neighbor-to-neighbor together talking, however it's done, it is handled. And every month we give a report about all of the different numbers of cases that we have with all those different issues. And it's considerable. It's considerable. And when it does not, we are not able to address it neighbor to neighbor, it may come to our disciplinary hearing. And that, again, is outlined in your November mailing and what the disciplinary fines are. Sometimes that's the only way to get people's attention is with a monetary fine. All in all, I hope we've done a pretty good job, and I say to all of you again, we're here to do our best to serve our mutual, and that includes all of you. And if you have problems, if you have questions, come to the Resident Advisory Committee. Send us a letter, send us an email, we'll respond. Just talking to neighbors out on the street and complaining is not going to do a thing. And last but not least, before I finish, I would like to thank our 3 directors on the VMS board. Each of us has 3 directors that make up the board. Anthony Liberatore, Mary Stone, and Dick Rader are United's representatives on the VMS board right now, and we really appreciate their service as well. Okay, I think that's it. And so it's 11:30?
Brad.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I'll let you speak.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to share with each of you what a pleasure it's been for me to work with the board over the last year. There have been huge compliments. So many of them talk about today, the solar, waistline, and copper pipe, big effort on dry rot. It's really been an amazing year. And I think for United, because there's going to be so many GRF projects going on in your area next year, plus the El Toro Reclaimed Water Project in United, it's going to be a busy year with 4 gates under construction, probably a clubhouse or 2 getting major rehab work, as well as the big El Toro Reclaimed Water projects, along with the mutuals standard programs of painting and remediation. So I think last year was a huge year. I think next year is going to be even bigger. And so I put together, I think, a very strong team of employees who can deliver for you, that will meet your, I think, expectations with respect to project delivery, and then as well on the customer service side, which is really what we're all about here, is as I tell our employees, getting to yes. I think that's been my biggest challenge here. It seems like there's a culture of no a lot of times, and we've changed that. And so we don't need to lead with no. We might end up at no, but we don't lead with it. We want to say yes and take care of your constituents, my customers, as well as we can in a fast and efficient way, and make their lives easier and much happier. So again, it's just been a pleasure, and I've enjoyed my interactions with you and with United residents. I think it's been a really a good year. If you think back, we started this transition 2 days before Christmas, December 23rd. That's right. Not really a good day to issue 1,000 pink slips, but I guess a good day to rehire a good portion of those. And so we moved forward, and it has been a remarkable journey. And I thank you for sharing a piece of your lives and energy with me and our team. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I will adjourn the annual meeting of United Laguna Woods Mutual, and I will open the organizational meeting. Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break. All right, I will call to order the organizational meeting of the Board of Directors.
Get your microphone on.
Juanita,
Mike.
Sorry. Thank you. Call to order the organizational meeting of the Board of Directors of United Laguna Woods Mutual, Tuesday, October 10th, in the boardroom. So we definitely have a quorum. Our whole board is here. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Steve? And a second? Andre? Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda?
I have the voting screen up.
I still don't have mine.
All right, we're missing 3.
I know.
Janie, Pat.
I voted.
Normally, I just say let's raise hands, but it's important that we get this because what we're going to be doing is voting.
If we can have
Manuel
and Reza let us know, because I don't have them in for voting yet because it's all new and I didn't get a chance to load them in, so they may have to do a manual vote where I can just record them.
Okay.
Okay.
You're going to have to hold
Yes.
your hand up for this, so-
All right, the agenda is approved.
No, it's not, because we just
So,
had
right,
you
we're
on,
still
so.
for it right now.
It's a process to, yeah, just if you're a yay, that would be great.
And for the elections,
me
we
know.
have ballots. It's a secret vote, so you don't have to worry about the screen.
Are you yay or nay, Reza,
He's-
for the approval of the
Reza.
agenda?
Yeah, yes or no for
Do we proceed with the agenda?
proceed with the agenda?
Okay.
All right, we're all,
And then Director English, I didn't get.
I've done it, and Steve checked me, and
Okay.
there's something wrong there.
All right,
It's
so
not
we're
reliable,
unanimous
that
then.
system.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not working. We're unanimous then. Yes.
all right, very good.
All right.
Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
We will, gentlemen, you will be in the computer
My name is
at our
spelled
next
wrong.
meeting.
My name is spelled wrong, A-R-M-E-N.
Okay, we'll have to do that for the next meeting. Sorry, I can't go back and change it at this point.
All right, the next thing on our agenda is the election of officers. And the way this will work is I will open the nominations. The nominations will require a second. The person who is nominated has to agree to serve, and then we will take a vote, and we have ballots, and they will be counted by our secretary and Lori Moss, and then given to me to announce. So the first officer that we have to elect is president. May I open it for nominations for president? Don?
Yes, I would like to nominate our present president, Juanita Skillman.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Cash beat you to it. Thank you. Are there any other oh, yes, I would be willing to serve. Pat?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Don Tibbetts.
And is there a second? Reza? All right, Don, are you willing to serve?
And thank you for the opportunity, but no, I'm not.
Okay. All right, are there any other
I'd like to
nominations?
nominate Ben English.
All right. Is there a second to that nomination? Reza? Okay, Pat, are you willing to serve?
Yes.
I'd also like to nominate Steve Leonard.
I would not serve.
All right, so we won't even go through the second. He's not willing to serve. All right, we have two
I would like to say something.
Yes, please.
I was a little bit disturbed. I was a little bit disturbed at one of the. Can everybody hear me?
No, yeah.
I was disturbed to see that some people come to the board with their own agenda. And one of the emails that came across me was by Pat, addressed to Manny, and it read, "Strategic moves. Our only hope now to gain some power on the board and reduce the bloc's control by splitting the vote." It goes on and on and on with all negative thoughts. We are not here to divide each other. We are here to be one. When Pat last week was saying that she cannot take on the charge for her finance committee, now she wants to go for even higher office, I'm kind of wondering, with such kind of negativity, what is that going to mean? I would think if I was her, I would be so ashamed to submit a resignation for this kind of negative email.
All right, I
Thank
think
you.
that's enough.
Totally,
Thank you.
totally wrong, and it's totally out of order.
Yes.
And that's purely political, and we have every right to argue political things and do political things at this point in time.
Andre?
No.
Is that a confidential?
Point of order, Madam Chair, can we go on with the?
Yeah, this really isn't a comment time. So we do have an election.
Well,
At this time, we
hold
have
on.
two candidates. Do we have a third candidate?
Why do we allow that comment instead of my comment?
Because I didn't realize that he was going to make that kind of a comment, which is why I tried to stop it.
No. No, okay.
I decline it, but I'm privileged and thank you, but I decline.
Okay, my question is that confidential information?
No?
That's not confidential information?
It's an email.
Yeah,
Ask Jeff.
okay. so
The
I-
email did not say it was confidential, and it was sent out.
Okay.
All right, we have two candidates.
Somebody else I'd like to nominate, Mag.
Microphones, please.
I will not serve.
All right, Maggie, would you pass out the ballots, please?
I'd like to say something.
No.
Yes. After being criticized by
I would
art like
suggest-
that, it's taken away my opportunity to win this election. This is totally unfair, and I'm totally upset about it. You should not have done that.
Jeff, do you have a comment?
Well, just as a point of order, I would recommend going forward that, Madam Chair, Ms. Skillman, that you recognize directors before there be discussion. It's what the board has always done in the past, and it's what I think you should do going forward, just to maintain some parliamentary procedure.
And they should use their request to speak.
Okay. All right, Pat, did you want to make a comment?
Well, I just think that what Cash has said has prejudiced directors against me, and it was totally unfair. And I had every right to do what I was doing, to try and get a group together to win the election. I'm trying to overcome what I feel is, that gentleman said, an authoritarian attitude here, which I believe it is. And I'm sorry you think that way. But you should not have done that to me when you did that. That was wrong.
All right, are there any other comments from directors? Has everybody voted?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment.
All right, Don.
This whole deal on the email, if you recall, our attorney Jeff has told us on numerous occasions not to send emails back and forth. It's always going to create a problem. So I would remind the board that we should not use emails to make comments as were made.
I don't believe in that email there was any negative response to anyone, Cash.
All right, Steve, you had a comment.
I would request that we get a clear clarification from our attorney in the use of emails between board members at this time, for the record.
Totally wrong.
Jeff, do you have?
Good point.
Well, we have discussed this in the past.
Yes, we have.
And there's two layers of regulation regarding discussions by email amongst board members. The Open Meeting Act of the Civil Code prohibits a majority or more of the board from communicating by email. Doing so violates the Open Meeting Act and constitutes a meeting, and secret meetings by email are prohibited. Directors can email amongst each other as long as a majority of the board isn't involved. But as I stated in the past, it's not a good practice because it fosters conflict amongst the board and creates misunderstandings and animosity. And those were the discussions we've had in the past.
Excuse me.
Thank
So the answer to that is, as long as there's not more than a communication between 5 directors is permitted. If you do it with 6, then you got a majority and it's not. Is that the correct interpretation?
That's the correct interpretation under the Open Meeting Act, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
35.
I have the results. Want me to read them?
Yes, please.
Okay, Juanita Skillman, 7, Pat English, 4. Juanita Skillman is president.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to open the nominations for first vice president. Who has a nomination? Pat?
I'd like to nominate Manny for vice president.
I'd be willing to serve.
Is there a second?
No. I would like to nominate.
Oh, wait, I need a second for the other nomination. Andre, all right. And Cash, you had a nomination?
Yes, I would like to nominate Jamie Dorrell again for first vice president.
I accept the nomination.
Is there a second? Don?
I also like. It's finished?
Do you have a nomination?
Yeah, Janie.
She was just nominated.
She was just nominated.
Oh, okay.
All right, I have two candidates. I have
I'd like to nominate Maggie.
I will not serve.
Okay, I still have two candidates.
I'd like to nominate Cash.
Second vice president? I do not accept for the first vice president.
All right, would you, you have your ballots? Would you please fill out your ballots? Expected.
Yeah.
You have 11.
All right, Madam Secretary, would you announce the results of the vote?
Janie Durrell, 8. Manuel Almendarez, 3. Janie Durrell is first vice president.
Thank you. All right, our next office is second vice president. Do I have nominations, Steve?
I'd like to nominate Don Tibbetts, please.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'd like to nominate Pat English.
Okay, is there a second?
Second that.
I didn't hear him.
Pat?
Wait.
Don't we have
All
to
right,
do
so
one
far
at
we
a
have
time?
Don and we have Pat. I heard a second over there. Do I have any other nominations? Janie?
I nominate Cash.
I'll second that.
I will withdraw my support at this time as a second vice president. I will still be active. I think Don is a better candidate than I am, and
Just say,
that's my point
I
of view.
will not serve, it's all you say. Just say, I will not serve.
I will not serve.
Thank you.
All right, I have two candidates. Are there any more?
Were there two beside this?
Don and Pat.
Vote, please. All right, Madam Secretary, if you would announce the results.
Don Tibbetts, 7. Pat English, 4. Don Tibbetts is second vice president.
Thank you. I'll now open for nominations for board secretary. Gary?
I'd like to nominate Maggie Blackwell, secretary.
Okay, do I have a second? Cash?
I will serve.
All right. Are there any other nominations for board secretary? Hearing none, we will, she will be elected by acclamation, and we do not need to vote. All right, I now open the nominations for treasurer. Don?
I'd like to nominate Gary Morrison.
I accept.
Okay.
Seconded.
Okay. Pat?
I'd like to nominate Manny.
Okay, is there a second? Risa, are you seconding it?
Many.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other nominations for treasurer?
I'd like to nominate Janie.
She is already our first vice president.
Oh, okay.
She was just elected.
How about Cash?
I do not want to be in that position.
He declines. All right, so we have two candidates for treasurer. We have Gary and we have Manuel. And I'm sorry, is it Manuel?
Manuel Armendariz.
Okay, I come from the Southwest, and I'm sorry, it's always been Manuel.
That's English. Manuel Armendariz, it's English.
English, Manuel, I'm sorry. I will get it straight. All right, if everybody would vote, please.
Oh, sorry. It's okay.
Right, Madam Secretary, would you announce the vote?
Gary, 7, Manuel, 4. Gary is treasurer.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to close nominations. Okay. All those in favor? Let's just use hands. None opposed, okay. All right, the other thing we have is number 5, the announcement of our executive officers for 2018. Myself for president, Janie for first vice president, Don for second vice president, Maggie for secretary, and treasurer will be Gary. And we also have 2 ex officio officers, Brad Hudson and Lori Moss. And we have a corporate secretary, and that's Cheryl Silva. Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve a resolution for the election of the officers. I don't have the wording, but it's the standard resolution that approves the officers that were just elected. Do I have a motion for that resolution?
Maggie can read it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, she's got it. Okay, thank you.
Resolved October 10, 2017, that the following persons are hereby elected as officers of this corporation. President Juanita Skillman, first vice president Janie Durrell, second vice president Don Tibbetts, secretary Maggie Blackwell, treasurer Gary Morrison, sorry. Robert Gary Morrison.
Thank you.
Resolved further that the following person is hereby appointed as an ex officio officer of the corporation, Brad Hudson, vice president ex officio. And Cheryl, you said?
Yeah, it's our corporate secretary.
Is our corporate secretary. Resolved further that Resolution 01-1578, adopted June 1, 2015, is hereby superseded and canceled.
Do you move it?
I move this.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the resolution for the 2018 executive officers, ex officio officer, and corporate secretary. Can vote online. Voting is in progress. Push your little button.
So we have 2 that'll have to raise their hands.
Okay,
And I've been having trouble with Pat's as well.
all right. Raisa, did you approve the?
I vote no with the comment to be added in there that I also feel very strongly that Cash prejudiced the rest of the directors with his comments that were totally out of line. As the attorney said, there was nothing wrong with that email that was circulated. So he did prejudice the vote. So I vote no for that resolution.
All right, I have 1 no vote.
2 no votes.
Risa, how do you vote, yes or no?
I would no.
All right, we have 2 noes.
3 noes.
You're also voting no?
Yes.
All right, 3 noes.
Okay.
So it's 8-3.
It's 8-2. We had 2 no. We had 3 noes.
3
Pat
no,
also
8 to
votes
3.
no.
3.
Right. 8 to 3. 8. Oh, that's right. We're up to 11 now. Thank you. It's approved. All right. This meeting is adjourned.
Madam Secretary,
yes.
You want to comment on the election or the appointments of committee members? When you want that done and how?
No. Well, as president, I will be asking each of you to give me a list of the 3 committees that you would be interested in serving on, both for United and for GRF. It is then the president's duty to assign committee chairs and committee members to serve with those committee chairs for the coming year. We'll be announcing those at our organizational meeting, our orientation meeting, which is going to be October 30th, all day, We're going to go over Robert's Rules of Order. Jeff and Lori are going to go over strategic planning and rules and duties of directors, code of conduct. We're going to have a short presentation on Robert's Rules of Order. And we're going to talk about things like what committees, who's on the committee, what it means to serve on the committee, what responsibilities you have for the various committees. We're also going to talk about who's going to be on VMS on various Fridays. We have once a week on Fridays, and who's going to be doing new member orientation. We have a rotation schedule that will be all announced on the 30th. So,
and that meeting's at 9 a.m.
Right.
And then your board also has a special meeting on October 17th.
Right, that's the business meeting we
2
couldn't do
p.m.
for today.
Here in this room.
Right.
2 p.m.
2 p.m., yes. There were a number of business articles that we wanted to get done with the second reading that we could not do. We didn't want to push them off until November. And since we didn't do business at our annual meeting, we're having a special meeting on the 17th. It is an open meeting. Anybody is invited to go, so. All right. Yes.
Follow up on Don's question. You mentioned that it's your responsibility, as chair's responsibility to assign people on the committee. My question is, on what rule do we have?
The bylaws. If you'll read the bylaws, it's what it says in the bylaws.
There's a discussion, there's a practice on the 3rd that they have a meeting as a whole. So if we have more people interested in certain meetings, will we allow more people, or just a selected few can be assigned to that meeting?
We will talk about it on the 30th. My responsibility is to appoint a chairman.
Right.
And then who else serves on that committee, we can talk about on the 30th. As I say, if you will each give me a list of the 3 committees for both United and GRF that you are interested in,
right.
We'll see how we can get that worked out. Everybody can't be on every committee, and we have to have some representatives on each committee, so.
The question is, why can't everybody on every committee?
We talked about doing the committee as a whole for it, and it was.
It's cumbersome for voting.
Cumbersome and unwieldy. We
cumbersome
didn't
for
feel that it was right.
absences
You
and
can bring it up
attendance.
again on our orientation meeting if you wish, and we can talk about it.
Okay.
We can go what it entails. But if you have a board as a whole, a committee as a whole, that means that everybody has to be there all the time. And our board members were not willing to be at every meeting all the time.
Right.
They were interested in being at the meeting, the committees that they were assigned to.
But I frequently hear people say, we have a meeting, you didn't come, so we don't want to tell you anything. It's your job to attend the meeting and learn these things. And we asked all the residents to do that too. So why don't we allow people to, if they want to join the meeting, just join the meeting and...
Anybody can come to the meetings. They do
Yes.
not need to be on the committee itself.
But they are not...
They're not
so
voting.
To be the committee member, and they don't have votes.
That's correct.
That is the issue that I'm
All
concerned.
right, well, we'll talk about it on the 30th.
Thank you.
May I make?
Yes, Cash.
Well, I'm one of 11 people here, and I will go with whatever decision is made. And again, I'm sorry if I offended you, but I was just reading what I read on the internet. Thank you.
All right, this meeting is adjourned, and we can all go over to Clubhouse 2 for the board luncheon.